AM 1460 WXBR, you're listening to the Metro South Morning Show. Peter Czymbor and Mike Pava here with you on a Tuesday morning. And joining me via the telephone right now is a man who will be taking the stage at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston this Thursday. One of the most popular alternative rock bands from the 90s, Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. I know it's quite early out in Seattle where you're joining us right now.
Yes. I went to bed at 1 o'clock. I got up at 2:30, my usual routine. I only sleep for an hour and a half a night because I'm a genius.
Well, I hope that the lack of sleep makes this interview more entertaining for our sake. I hope the lack of sleep keeps you on edge a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Natural caffeine of sleeplessness.
Well, let's talk about this tour you have going on right now. It kicks off very early this week. You guys are in Boston this Thursday, also doing an area show at the Mohegan Sun Friday at the Wolf Den. You guys are out touring simply for the sake of touring. There's no real album or DVD or any merchandise to really support this. You guys are just touring for the sake of getting out there and doing that. Why are you hitting the road at this point?
Oh, for fun. For fun and profit. It's a business and a pleasure. So, it's just kind of... We're in that stage now where we don't really have to impress anybody, and we don't really have anybody over, and we don't have any pressure. Taking advantage of that sort of out of the spotlight perspective to just breathe deep and rock out.
Now, the last two albums that you guys have released have been self-released albums. You guys obviously were part of the whole major label thing in the mid to late 90s when you guys had those two gargantuan hits, Lump and Peaches and whatnot. But With the way the music industry is going now, bands of your nature, do you guys even need to be signed to a record label, or is it better to just sort of DIY, do it yourself?
Oh, way better to DIY. There's no reason to sign to a major label now unless you're going to shift, unless you're going to be in the top 10 on Billboard and you need that, giant machinery to help facilitate getting a lot of records to a lot of people super fast, which is kind of what happened to us in the 90s. We kind of came on the scene really fast and we needed a major label. That was the right tool for the job. But these days, with distribution the way it is, you can write a song at noon, mix it at 2, and have people buying it at 4. So the distribution is just completely transparent now. And it's great because, back when I lived in Boston in the late 80s to early 90s, the DIY, aesthetic was strong. And I felt like back then I was totally successful. I'd write songs, record them, sell them on cassettes out of my bag at shows that I played at the Middle East and with my band. And I thought, that's it. I'm done. I'm fine. So the whole major label thing for me as a songwriter and performer was a big detour from the main road of do-it-yourself.
Once again, we're chatting with Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America, playing Boston this Thursday at the Paradise Rock Club. You now live in Seattle, which we alluded to at the top of the interview, which I think you're more associated with than on any other major city in the United States. But you just mentioned moments ago you did spend quite a bit of time in Boston living here in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah, Boston is definitely my second home. In some ways, my first home is where I really came of age as a musician and a person. I was super tight with Mark Sandman and the guys from Morphine, and lived with Mark for a while. We had a band called Supergroup where we improvised songs in front of people live, no net. And so, I really kind of came into my own in Boston, and Mark was a big part of that kind of self-awareness as an artist and stuff. He really nurtured me and helped and, kind of mentored me, and I miss him every day.
Boston and Seattle on opposite coasts in the United States. How do you find yourself between those two cities?
Well, I went to school in New York, and during my I went to art school in kind of about half an hour outside of New York City, and then during my senior year, one of the teachers was from Boston and said, open invitation to any of you graduating seniors who want a job, come work for me. And he did big, what were they, like multimedia public art installations. So he needed assistance. And me and the drummer in my band at the time took him up on the offer, moved to Boston, worked for him, and continued our musical exploits up there in Boston and just sort of grew some roots for a while. So.
What are some of the first gigs that you recall in this area? We're located in New England.
The first gigs in New England were in the subway. In the subway and on the street, Harvard Square, Newbury Street. Believe it or not, I started out in downtown Crossing, playing my little guitar and singing ridiculous country songs. So yeah, it was the street and the subway. I kind of cut my teeth busking in Boston.
Being a street musician in Boston, is that any decent way to make a living for a little while, or no, is it just change here and there?
It kind of sucks. For one thing, you have to play all day, and then you develop, carpal tunnel syndrome, and you can't use your hand anymore. So it's pretty, unless you're playing harmonica or something, and then you probably get carpal lips. But I had friends, Mary Lou Lord was a good friend of mine. She's a Boston or New England. She's from Salem, actually, but she was a fixture in Harvard Square, maybe still is. I haven't seen her for a while, but yeah, she got the carpal tunnel real bad. So it's tough. But you know what? It was a really great way to understand what it takes for a song to reach out and grab. I wrote a song. I did originals mostly. And if I sang a song of my own that actually made people stop, even though they were on their way somewhere and they're busy, then I knew, there's right and magical. So it kind of set me up with a vocabulary of, hooks and riffs and vibes and feels that would actually stop people in their tracks.
As a street musician, what do you think would appeal to people to stop and actually throw you some change or stop and listen? In general, confidence and enthusiasm and sort of clarity of vocals. You don't want to be standing there mumbling or, trying to be Bob Dylan Jr. I found that clear enunciation and songs that had a slight bit of tension or story to them that needed resolve, let me set up this story and then I'm going to resolve it for you. That kind of thing was super useful to stop a crowd. Once again, speaking with Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America, taking the stage at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston this Thursday. Earlier on, you and I spoke of the fact that you guys have been releasing your albums on your own independent label, and that's really the best way to go for you guys moving forward, as you guys already have an established fan base from all the fanfare you guys created with your radio hits and whatnot. If you are an upstart band, do you think it's best to go the independent route at first, or do you think you should try to shop yourself around to various labels?
Oh, I don't know. Do it all if it makes you happy. But I would say if you're a young band, just don't expect to be successful and find joy in the moment. Like if you play for 10 people in a club, just play for those 10 people. Like do a great job for those 10 people. I would say so many people are so fascinated by fame and this like future happiness that will happen if everything lines up and everything's perfect. And I think it's super unhealthy. And I think that people have lost track of the ability to just be in the now and be in the moment. And by being in the now, you will actually open doors to your future success that you can't even imagine are there. It's something that I definitely accessed when I was living in Boston and when I was busking and in the early days of the Presidents, and something I lost when we got famous, actually. It's a lot harder to keep track of the moment when you've got, all this crazy stuff happening. You're on MTV, you're a million places at once, on magazine covers, tons of pressure, lots of touring. All of a sudden you can't hang out at home with your family, and you got to be on the road in a little coffin in a tour bus. So it's a funny thing. It's like everybody thinks that fame is this amazing, magical thing. But my big advice to young bands would be just be here now and make sure you're happy right now, because deferring your happiness is one of the most twisted things humans do to themselves. So there you go.
When you look back at all the success you guys had in the late 90s with Peaches and Lump and all the success you guys had being on TV and radio, is there any single moment that stands out like, I can't believe I was actually a part of that?
Wow, so many. Getting attacked by ninjas in the Peaches video was killer. Standing next to Little Richard multiple times at multiple different events. For some reason, I always ended up standing next to Little Richard, and he has a huge head. That was amazing.
Is he as awkward in person as he appears on television?
No, he's kind of just mellow and kind of, regular guy. Of course, I've just shared elevators with him, But, God, what else? I mean, being covered by Weird Al and having him play me on television was amazing. And he's still a good friend of mine, great guy. And he directed a video from our album we put out in 2008, so we're still friends with him. I probably should write down all the dozens of moments because they're starting to fade. So I might just have to make a little list after we get off the phone. But there's a lot.
You were immortalized into the fabric of pop culture once Weird Al does a parody of your song, because that's going to last forever.
Sure. I mean, the original won't, but the Weird Al one will.
I think Lump is still bound to get some play on VH1 Classic here and there and pop up on adult contemporary radio here and there. When you hear that song, you turn it up.
Yeah, I hope so. It's funny, though. I noticed that, we are absent from a lot of lists that people make about the 90s, which we consider to be a great strength because I feel like we had our moment in time there where we were, post-grunge, sort of antidote to the seriousness and all that, and that helped push us out. But beyond that, we're a solid rock band that just delivers good time music for anybody, anytime, any place. We're really versatile and we can play anywhere, and we kind of feel like we exist outside of time and culture.
I always find when VH1 comes out with those top 100 lists of any particular decade or year or whatnot, I always find myself disagreeing with something like, how could they leave that song off the list? Yeah,
what is happening there is we are also culturally extremely excited to make everything a competition. Let's make food a competition, and let's make beauty a competition, and let's make dancing a competition, singing a competition. It's kind of sick. And I think these those lists and that kind of stuff are just another extension of that urge to make everything into a competition. So I'm very happy whenever we're left off that stuff because, I just feel like that's another area where human beings really miss the point.
Let's say they do include you on the list, though. I'm sure you're thankful to see your name somewhere, right?
I don't really pay attention. I don't know. I'm too busy living in the moment in my garden. Actually, you know what? I'm too busy to look because I'm really busy. I run my own record label, and I make music for little kids as Casper Baby Pants, and I've been doing that since 2009. And Casper Baby Pants was actually my nickname when I played with Mark back in the early 90s in Supergroup. And so now I'm making music for little kids, and I've got 6 records out. I've got my 7th is coming out in September, and that is just going like gangbusters. So I'm too busy to read the trades, as they used to say in the 40s.
Are you writing original children's songs, or are you just sort of covering children's songs which have been staples forever?
I'm doing both. I'm doing original, and I'm taking old songs, and I'm updating them and kind of bringing them into the modern world by just kind of moving them along creatively a little bit. I don't do very straight covers of classics, but they're straight enough that you don't have to, it doesn't sacrifice the original's integrity, but I'm trying to move the ball a little bit. So, and then there's originals and lots of collaborations. I've had a whole bunch of, I've had Chris Novoselic from Nirvana on an album. I just co-wrote a song with Steve Turner from Mudhoney for the last album. Rachel Flotard from Visqueen, who's a local fixture. Stone Gossard from Pearl Jam plays bongos on my records. So it's kind of a grunge-tastic meets hillbilly sensation.
Another project I wanted to ask you about that I heard a lot about, but to tell you the truth, I did not hear much of the music, was a much-touted side project you had with Sir Mix-a-Lot called Subset. You guys had a collaboration, correct?
Yeah, we had a band, full-on band, and we toured the West Coast, and we were on our way to making a record, and we just, it's an interesting experience. It was the Presidents and Sir Mix-a-Lot and this other MC named Out of Sight, and as the project went on, our common ground started to and me and Mix kind of went in one direction, everybody else went in another. Mix and I wanted to really kind of make the songs crazy and weird and use computers and stuff, and there was another faction that kind of wanted to keep them more organic, and so the common ground shrunk and the project kind of disintegrated. But Mix-a-Lot actually is the one who showed me how to record on computers, and I've been doing it ever since, and that kind of saved my creative booty because I was working on cassettes and having limitations. So that's the big thing that came out of that. And then the other thing that came out was that other MC, Out of Sight, and I created a band called the Feelings Hijackers, and we put out 2 records and then kind of a greatest hits plus rare stuff. It just came out a couple of years ago called Super Record, and that collaboration was extremely awesome and fruitful and cool.
It would only make sense that you would say Sir Mix-a-Lot saved your booty, considering he is the undisputed ass king, right?
Yeah, that's true. if anybody's going to save your booty, you want Sir Mix-a-Lot to do it. He also turned me on to some of the best rib joints and hot wings in the metropolitan Seattle area.
Well, if we ever have Sir Mix-a-Lot on the air and we have a trip scheduled to Seattle, I will be sure to ask him about that. Chris, before we let you go, what can folks expect from a Presidents of the United States show at this point in time, circa 2013? We'll mention once again you guys are playing at the Paradise in Boston this Thursday. Another area show if people want to take the trip for the weekend, do a little gambling this Friday night. You guys will be playing at the Wolf Den at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. What can folks expect from the Presidents circa 2013?
Lots of black lights and smoke and political rants. Not a lot of music. Lots of shoegazing. During the middle of the set, we just take a break and eat for a while. It's really, really dark and boring. No, it's the opposite. It's just, like that. The way I ran my busking life is pretty much the same. It's like I'm just there to serve the folks, and to that end, we just have a great time. We play all the hits and everything you want to hear. And actually at the Paradise, we're going to have Dana Cawley from Morphine come up as a special guest and do a few tunes with us, including possibly a Morphine song. So that'll be super special. But yeah, it's just a good time, sugar-coated trampoline party, basically. So bring your jumping shoes.
Well, very cool. That's Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Any plans to release new music in the near future? You said you're always recording on your computer. What can we expect from the Presidents and yourself from here on out?
Well, Casper Baby Pants has a Beatles cover record coming out in September on the 17th. It'll be awesome. Go to babypantsmusic.com for more information. And then the Presidents are recording and writing new songs. And we're going to probably won't put them out as an album, but we'll probably put them out in little digital bundles. And go to presidentsrock.com, sign up for our mailing list so that you will be in the know when those little bundles of love come out.
It appears that this summer and last summer as well, there's bands like Everclear, Lit, and Filter, a lot of these alternative rock staples from the 90s touring together, sort of with a nostalgic play. Is that anything that you guys would ever want to be a part of, or do you like the route you're going right now?
No, we like the route we're going now. I mean, I don't mind nostalgia, but I'm not really into the package tour thing. And you know what? This is the whole thing. We like to exist outside of that cultural reference point. I mean, we don't mind being associated with it, but we're working. We're vital. We're entertaining. Mark actually gave me this amazing piece of advice. He said, "Don't ever open up for anybody," and he never did. Well, we broke it twice. Once for Tom Petty and once for, who was the other person? I can't remember anyway. It must not have been that great. So the idea is play your own show. Even if it has to be a smaller show, it's more valuable to play your own show because you're with your own people and you get this energetic frenzy going that you can't get when you're just one of 5 bands playing in the hot sun in a sports stadium. You know what I mean? So we would much rather play small rock boxes to our own people than play for, thousands of half-interested people.
Well, that's Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America playing this Thursday at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston. Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show this morning, getting up bright and early. Not so bright in Seattle, still dark. Any final words for our listeners before I let you go?
Well, I don't know, man. Just everybody take a deep breath, look around, be in the moment, have a good day, and we'll see you at the Paradise on Thursday night.
That's a man with a very positive outlook on life. Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America joining us here on AM 1460 WXBR. We'll step aside for a quick break. Back with more of the program after this.